So I feel a little weird about today's video. Not so long ago, we had a conversation on Streams to Go about creators who repost and rehash games they've already covered. As much as I've tried to convince myself this isn't what we're doing today, it kind of is. I recently got back into shiny hunting for Pokemon and remembered how easy it is to set that up in the Let's Go games. So I restarted the game and thought to myself, Pokemon's come a good ways on the Switch since these games came out. It might be fun to revisit Let's Go's concept and what it is now that we've gotten Gen 8 and the Sinnoh remakes coming later this year. Here is my revisit of sorts of the Pokemon Let's Go games. When it comes to story, Let's Go are pseudo remakes of Pokemon Yellow. You play as a trainer in the Kanto region who travels from Pallet Town. All of the original characters and set pieces recreated in 3D are pretty neat to look at, but it also dives into a bit of a change. Your rival character is new and you meet characters from the original like Red and Blue, so it isn't an exact one-to-one remake. Obviously, Red doesn't take down Team Rocket at Silphco, and Mega Evolutions are present, so this could fall into the Mega timeline that a lot of people have theorized about for years. When it comes to gameplay, Let's Go is a monster-catching RPG. All in all, Let's Go retains a lot of the series' core mechanics and features. You catch wild Pokemon, form teams, fight against trainers and gym leaders with said teams. However, Let's Go were a little controversial with two things they changed. So let's start with the restrictions. This was the Nintendo Switch's first attempt at a core-like Pokemon RPG. As such, they started small and remade Generation 1 with minimal expansion. Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee feature all 151 original Pokemon along with Mega and Alolan forms. Some of the features are also basic. The more in-depth options like breeding and held items introduced in later generations were not brought into the Let's Go remake, although some existing features were enhanced to feel a little bit less dated. These mostly amount to experience being shared across your entire party, TMs being reusable, and HMs being given to your starter. The latter is a convenience thing that allowed your Pikachu or Eevee to cut trees, fly, or surf without using their attack slots or even being in the battle party at all. And finally, they added back in a feature that a lot of people have wanted since Soul Silver and Heart Gold. Pokemon can follow you again, as well as you being able to ride on a bunch of them. Then we get to the mobile game Pokemon Go. Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu are basically what happens when Pokemon Go and the mainline series perform the fusion dance.
Fusion! Ha!
In these games, all wild Pokemon appear on the map and can physically walk into you to start encounters. You also don't fight the non-legendaries. Instead, you feed them berries and toss Pokeballs at them like the mobile game does. And this system comes with its own ups and downs. On the bright side, it helps you find rare encounters. When you're in Mount Moon and want to find a Clefairy, you no longer have to spend dozens of Zubat encounters to do it. Just stand at the entrance, use a lure, and wait for one to pop up. You've also got the catch combo system that makes shiny hunting a breeze. Catch Pokemon of the same species several times in a row and you'll increase your catch combo. Get that number up to 31 and not only will your experience rewards drastically increase for each catch, but you'll also increase the percentage of a shiny showing up. The shinies will even pop up on the map in their palette swap form. Not even Pokemon Go allows you to see what's shiny and what isn't before the encounter starts. Other Go mechanics include power being labeled as CP or combat power, transferring excess Pokemon to your professor for stat boosting candies, and Go Park. The latter took the Safari Zone and turned it into a location where you can import Pokemon Go catches into Let's Go. And speaking of importing, Let's Go also has the capability of exporting to Pokemon Home if you want your shiny Gen 1 stuff in Sword and Shield. But with positives also come negatives. Catching can be made easy, but being forced to catch everything in the wild to get experience from them makes your grinding sessions limited to how many Pokeballs you have in your inventory. Money is sparse in the game's opening hours, so if you run out of Pokeballs to throw, you're done grinding. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the catching mechanics are the main change. Battles with trainers and gyms are pretty much the same as they were before. You don't have held items, but it uses the same battle system the series pretty much always has. With that in mind, Poke veterans will have an easy time jumping in. Speaking of easy, let's talk about difficulty. A bunch of the Let's Go pushback was due to people claiming the game holds your hand far too much. I do agree it is a bit too easy in some regards, but not all. The requirements to enter gyms I think got a bit too hand-holdy. Your starter Pikachu or Eevee can easily get everything they need to fight Brock, so there was no need for the game to force you to get a water or grass type to enter and challenge the gym. This was actually a concern I had when I did a Nuzlocke of this game a while back. Thankfully, the first thing I saw on Route 1 was a Bellsprout, so I didn't have any problems. But I think the difficulty of the actual fights is fine. I had to stop and level when I got to certain gyms, so it's not like I can just run through the game without having to prepare. Though it is true that abusing the candy system can take that difficulty away pretty quickly. I mentioned earlier you can send Pokemon to your professor for stat boosting candies. These candies can be gotten pretty much infinitely as long as you keep catching stuff, and they're permanent stat boosts. You can give a single Pokemon, I believe, a good 150 to 200 candies, turning anything with bad stats into an unstoppable killing machine that the gym leaders in Elite Four have no chance against. And finally, let's talk about content and length. If there is one thing that I really disliked about Let's Go from the beginning, it was the lack of post-game content. Now you do have Cerulean Cave and some post-game trainer battles you can do every day. That's all well and fun, especially the little Easter egg character that shows up in the cave. But not having the Sevi Islands from Fire Red and Leaf Green and really having no post-game story stuff to do at all really makes it feel like the Let's Go post-game is just collecting stuff to transfer to newer generations. But you can still spend a decent amount of time in the game. My most recent run took me about 30 or so hours to complete, though to be honest, a good 7 to 8 of those hours were spent shiny hunting mid-game. Something about a stubborn person named Reviews to Go that really wanted a shiny Vaporeon in his battle party. Then we get to controls. Let's Go is really weird in how it manages TV mode. The game is focused really big on co-op and motion controls that the game can only be played with a single Joy-Con. This is a pretty neat concept as you swing the Joy-Con forward to throw the Pokeballs, though the motion detection is pretty iffy when throwing to the left or right. The control schemes also show that Pokemon is at the end of the day a handheld franchise. Going into handheld mode and it controls amazingly well. The motion controls in this mode have you just moving the handheld system around and tapping A to throw the Pokeball. Not only is this more accurate than in TV mode, but it's so much easier to use. Alright, now we're on to presentation. Visually, I think the games look fine. It was based on Pokemon Go's visuals but polished up a bit. The renders look smooth around the edges, and it is overall a colorful adventure. So performance is good for most of the game, but what issues it does have last. There are select areas that have frame drops like Viridian Forest, Pokemon Tower, and Koga's Gym. The main issue is that the audio cuts out occasionally in these areas, and the issues will linger for some time after you leave. For example, when I went through the Pokemon Tower for the story and these issues popped up, I headed to Cycling Road to farm Eevee spawns and I encountered the audio cutouts there for a good hour or two after. But that's the only complaint I have there, so let's go on to battery life. On the original model, Pokemon Let's Go has a battery range of 3 hours and 16 minutes up to 4 hours and 39 minutes. On the Nintendo Switch Lite, it has a range of 4 hours and 46 minutes up to 7 hours and 9 minutes. And on the Redboxer V2 2019 model, it has a range of 6 hours and 52 minutes up to 8 hours and 15 minutes. In conclusion, Let's Go is still a fun remake 3 years after its initial release. Now on the downside, the restrictions seem that much more severe with Gen 8 being around, and it does have some issues with performance and a lack of post-game. With this in mind, it's still a fun little game, but more for Gen 1 fans and shiny hunters that want an easier way to grab those rare palette swaps. Reviews to Go rates Pokemon Let's Go for the Nintendo Switch a 7 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Thank you for watching and have a great day.